The Powered Paragliding Show, brought to you in conjunction with Paramotor Magazine, with your hosts, Michael Purdy, Jeff Going, and Paul Anthem.
Let's fly away!
Welcome to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm Jeff Goyne. I'm here with Michael Purdy and Paul Anthem. Greetings, guys.
Hey.
Hello. Hello.
It kind of seems like we're waking up, doesn't it? Anyway, here we are.
So we're talking about, this is the second half of talking about the new video that I just finished. The one question I know comes up is when. I get that all the time, and I've been getting that for a long time. I've had people wanting to pre-order, and I learned that had stress to my life. And the most stressful part of my life is already my non-work part.
Right. Well, you don't have a work part. You're not unemployed, but you can't tell me it's work. Flying the big trike, that's just fun, isn't it?
Mostly. About 95% of the time, there is that third round trip to Cleveland when it's snowing that I would rather be with my powered paraglider, or in my living room, or about anywhere else dealing with the 3-hour delay we're currently dealing with going to Cleveland. But that is an entirely other subject.
All right, so let's go back to the advanced ground handling, wing handling. We just touched on a couple subjects. What else do you have? There's a lot in there. Give us some more little teases here.
Okay, I talk about gear. There's a surprising amount of gear that you can use for this. You don't have to just have a paragliding harness. There are 5 different types of harnesses you can bring to bear. Talk about choosing a location. I can speak with authority now that choosing an improper location can hurt, let alone be expensive. And in fact,
yes,
you'll get to see that footage. Yeah, Paul can attest to that as well. You'll get to see that footage.
I've witnessed that firsthand.
That's right.
Jeff fell down?
Fall down, go really big boom.
Owie, big owie.
Got in a tangle with but we've already covered that on previous shows, I'm sure. So I talk about that, the D-Power we mentioned. Then I start going into concepts. I got a little bit of animation because before I get into much, I talk about terminology just to make sure everybody knows what aspect ratio is, span, flat area, projected area, pitch, yaw, roll, with great little animations that make that stuff as clear as can be. Then I go into some of the differences between paraglider kiting and flatland kiting, because there are some obvious differences, especially if you're kiting on a hill or you are kiting on flat land. But I have some great footage from the Alps, and then I have some great footage from Phil. I don't spend much time on that because this is, after all, about power paraglider ground handling. But you learn it with a harness. So then after I go into that, how you lay it out, what are the differences between flat and U or V-shaped layouts? Reverse kiting with a harness. That is Chapter 10. I do a little bit of the reverse kiting without a harness, as we mentioned, but the meat and potatoes is reverse kiting with a harness. This is what we all think about when we think about kiting. And I talk about, again, reviewing the holes, some subtleties of the wall. Like an interesting tidbit is when you are inflating the wing, if you step left, the wing comes up in that direction only for the first part of the inflation. It's just like a wall.
Right.
So that can be used to our advantage. Talk about offset inflations, talk about cobra inflations, assisted inflations. How many of you have seen somebody have another pilot help them, ostensibly help them, by holding them?
I've done that.
Holding them or the wing?
Holding the kiter.
I've pushed and pulled from the back of somebody, led them to one side or the other. The other thing I've done is even reached around and done the A's for them. If they don't quite get that, for whatever reason, sometimes they can watch me do it. I can watch them and explain it, but they think something else is amiss, and then I just say, no, watch. And I just lean around them, grab the A's and pull them up, and they're like, ooh, how'd you do that?
That's a great technique. This is more talking about if it's windy and you want to have somebody holds you so you don't slide downwind. Have you ever seen anybody try to do that? And then the wing rockets up, goes past them both, and plops down. Uh-oh, I think we've lost Michael, but we'll keep going. There's some other cool things that I talk about on this kiting video. And another thing is, I've got a bunch of different people doing it. Some exceptional kiters. The first person that helped me a lot was Steve Mayer out at Point of the Mountain. And have you ever been out there?
You know, I haven't been quite there. I've been to Utah and didn't have time to go there. But so you have video footage from almost all over the world, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I've got some from Switzerland, from Mexico, Australia, and several places in the U.S. And this is the first of 4. The videos 2 and 3 and 4 will have other pilots. I'm going to have Eric Dufour, a Fairmont in video 3, and Michel Carnet. I recorded an entire clinic with Michel Carnet. He talks about cross-country. But, yeah, and I have him a little bit on the ground handling, but not much, because when he was doing, because one of the things we do is the Cobra inflation. Have you ever seen that or done it?
I actually had to do that once at the beach blast because it was so windy, and I actually need to practice that some more. But yes, that's something that's very useful for high wind.
I never saw the way that Michelle does it, which is quite different, where the wing is facing down. The leading edge is down. And I don't think you do that at the beach for obvious reasons. But
No.
although I'm sure there's a moron video in there somewhere.
Yeah, I could get buried by sand. So the wing is basically upside down.
Yeah, the way that Michelle does it, you start with the wing upside down. Now, the way that I do it and have done it is, and actually so does Bill Heener, they use this a lot for tandems, is the wing is parallel to the wind, and then you bring it up so that only the tip is in the wind first, and you bring it up slowly. But Michelle starts with it where the wing is down, and I go over that. I do show that, even though that's not my favorite method. Talk about kiting with the tip lines. Backwards flying is something I cover. Now, I know that seems like a trick, but there's really a lot of benefit to being able to stay reversed if you get picked up.
Oh, and now, if I remember correctly, when you got picked up at Pilot's Knob, you were reversed.
I was reversed, and I stayed reversed. Had I lost control of that wing when that happened, I would have hit something with so much more speed. But I stayed reversed the entire time, kept the wing under control, and pointed into the wind. I was just flying the wing at that point, pushing off of things until the last one I couldn't push off of. It would have been hideous. And in most situations where they're not that extreme, flying backwards will be able to let you stay in control until you touch down again. So that's...
And you can see where you're going.
That's true, if it's that windy.
And kick off of objects.
Which I did several times. Yeah, exactly.
Right, which probably really saved you from breaking bones.
Right. Well, there was the rib. We won't go into that, though. We've already covered that in another show. So then upside down kiting. How about that? That's one that I cover on how to do it and several different ways of getting the wing upside down, of kiting it, and the finer points of getting debris out, either by kiting it upside down or when you have two people. One of the benefits of traveling like I have is that I've seen so many little techniques. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this series of videos, is I want to share that stuff. I mean, for one thing, I'm getting old. I want to forget it.
Right. That's an excellent point, because someone could be, one person, one instructor could be very skilled at what he does and teach some great techniques. But there are so many people that have so many other nuances that they've learned or taught themselves.
Exactly.
And there's just so much more. There's no one perfect way. So you might as well find out all the ways. Right.
And it's like another thing that I do, I show techniques for different inflations you'll use on a motor. Even though you may not use them in kiting, you will use them on a motor, but they're good to practice first. Like, for example, the cross-armed reverse.
Yeah, I've never done that.
Well, it turns out to be...
So can you explain that?
Oh, boy, this one's hard to explain, but
Okay.
let's say you start off with the risers like you're facing the wing, you're going to do a reverse, and then with your right hand, you're going to turn around to the left. So you're facing the wing, but you'll turn around to the left. Look left, turn around to the left. And you take your right hand, which now has the correct brake in it, just like you were going to do any other kind of reverse. Mm-hmm. And you bring it underneath everything and around all the risers, and then pick the riser going to the wing to your left. See, that description is terrible, probably. So this is where, watch the video, it's really clear. So do you actually
cross your arms?
And so then with your left arm, you take it over top of everything and grab the A going to the wing on your right. Now, when you turn around, as you turn around, your arms, your hands are holding the correct A. So when you get facing forward, you can start this turnaround with the wing only halfway up. And when you're facing forward, you're just like a forward launch where you're holding the A's.
Okay.
The correct A.
So it's not that complicated, really. You're basically crossing your arms with the risers so that as you turn around, your hands are going to be on the A's just like a forward.
Right. Picture
that
this.
Makes sense.
You're doing a forward launch. You get going, and your hands are still on the A's. You're probably not pulling them because you're moved. Now, stop, but keep your hands on the brakes. Turn around. Bring the wing down with your hands still on the brake, on the A's. Well, there you are. That's how you're set up for a cross-armed reverse. So
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but just want to point it out that it's a great light wind technique. And I do other light wind techniques. Exactly. And even though you probably won't do these kiting, what's the point? You're going to be kiting in wind. It's good to practice them without the weight and complexity of the motor and throttle. So if you get used to it by just kiting, a lot of these things are about get used to these concepts when kiting. So now when you go and do it with your motor, you have a head start.
Right. I mean, you have to start somewhere because when you put that motor on and you've got something vibrating on your back and making loud noises, it feels like a different game.
It's all so different. It really, it's remarkable. So then the fun begins. I get into high wind, or all of the fun stuff like paraglider or paraclimbing, as Bill Heener calls it, and he is the expert in this. Kiting along a course. And I talk about how you can be kiting along a beach, for example, where the wing is pointed into the wind, but you're walking down the beach. So the wing's pointed somewhat out to the water, yawing, say, to the left as you're walking up the beach, and you're maybe 45 degrees off it. I cover that. I go over the basics. I cover all of the nuance, squatting up and down, moving left, right, kiting with just your body, and then I go into those really advanced things. I also have kind of a funny bit, just as it says in the video, and now for something completely different.
Well, Jeff, it sounds like you're going to cover a lot in that. Interested students and experienced people will watch that again and again and again.
Yeah, I think you'll want to have your fast forward or your chapter change button. So anyway, hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll actually have that off into production. So by the time I get all the nuance done. So, all right, well, that's it for this segment. You're listening to the Powered Paragliding Show with Paul Anthem and Jeff Goyne. Michael Purdy is off for this show, and we'll be back with more. Thanks.
Closing time. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.